So he's going to go on to say, but not everyone possesses this knowledge. Now remember, he's not saying they don't possess it like they don't know that. He's saying they don't understand it that way. Does that make sense? He's not saying that they're ignorant of the fact that Jesus is Lord. He's saying that they don't understand it that way. These are saved people. This is important. This is an important concept for us. We don't have to know everything to be saved. These are people, whether they were Jews that were told never to have idols or to eat meat sacrificed to idols, or they're Gentiles who got saved out of a completely idolatrous, over-sexualized lifestyle. That's who lives in Corinth. So he's saying that not everyone has this understanding of what he's saying. Instead, he says some people are still so accustomed to idols that when they eat sacrificial food, they think of it as having been sacrificed to a god. And since their conscience is weak, it is defiled. So he's saying what's happening is people are getting saved, but they're getting saved out of this idolatrous lifestyle. And because of that, they don't share the understanding, not knowledge, or the knowing. They don't share the understanding that an idol is nothing because they used to serve that idol. They used to go to the temple of Apollos. They used to go to the temple of Aphrodite. They used to involve themselves in that. And this is normal human behavior. So it's baseball right now, right? It's baseball playoffs. Who here knows what the rally cap is? Right, there's two of us. So the rally cap, the rally cap is when your team is losing and someone gets like a hit. And then there's a second hit. And it looks like, oh, maybe there's an incline. And what you'll see is, like half the stadium will take their hat off and turn it inside out and then wear it. Because it's the rally hat. And they're invoking the power of the rally gods to keep that run going. Right? If you listen to baseball, is great. They're the most superstitious people on the planet. If one guy grows a mustache and they win their first playoff game, the whole team will grow a mustache. You watch the interviews. You have tons of guys that'll hit a home run and they will wear the socks all the way through. They don't wash them. They don't get different socks. They're like, I hit a home run in game one. I'm keeping these bad boys, right? You can go to a casino and they don't even have like the one mechanical machines anymore. You like push a button, right? And you'll still see people do this, right? They're invoking the power of the gods to stop to their 777 or whatever. We are given to superstition and idolatry, aren't we? Well, I did this one time. My car won't start, but I kind of sat like this once, and it did. Because clearly, weight distribution on my seat is going to adjust whether my car starts or not. Right? Don't we do stuff like that all the time? So it's not surprising that someone gets saved out of idolatry, and they're like, I don't know. There was that time that I sacrificed, and my harvest was so good. I mean, Jesus is Lord, but I think there's some legitimacy here, and I just don't want to have anything to do with that, so there's no way I'm eating that meat. There's no way I'm going to have any part with that. Do you see what he's saying? It's not malicious. It's not these people aren't stupid. These people aren't sinful. They're just folks trying to learn what it is to be a Christian. That's what's going on here. And so Paul just says, hey, look, not everybody possesses that understanding. They don't all see it the same way. He's going to go on. He says there, they think that it's actually sacrificed to a god, so that there's power behind this entity. And then what happens is their conscience is weak, so it ends up defiled. Verse 8, but food does not bring us near to God. We are no worse if we do not eat, and no better if we do. Now, this is interesting because he reverses the original argument. And he says, we are no worse if we do not eat. Now, the original deal was that people who have a weak conscience don't eat because they think it brings condemnation on them, right? But he's now saying it's not worse if we don't eat. It's not worse for us. And then the flip side of that is this: and we're no better if we do eat. You're not a stronger, better person if you eat the meat sacrificed to idols. And you're not a worse, terrible person if you don't eat the meat that's sacrificed to idols. There's no benefit from it either way. And he says there's no reason to be puffed up because you have the faith to eat it, and there's no reason to feel condemned if you don't have the faith to eat it. You're just working through your life. Do you see why this is so important for church life? Because we are all in different places. We've all had different experiences. There's different things that we all get weird about. And we can't take our weird things and then just put them on other people. I'll give you an example. I have a weird thing. It kills me to see a Bible on the floor. Absolutely kills me. You know what? There's no reason for that. This isn't Jesus. He's not in here. All right? He's not hiding. You know, there's nothing spiritual about this book other than the words themselves are spirit and truth, right? But the ink isn't extra holy, you know, if it sits on the ground. But for some reason, it just kills me. But you know what? It's because I'm weird. You don't have to worry about putting your Bible on the ground. But I have some sort of weak faith mental block where if yours is on the ground and you see it on your chair, it was me. It was me. Because I'm broken and I can't shake it. And I know intellectually, I know like it's just a book. This is not where Jesus dwells. But it just kills me because I'm the weaker brother. And so he says, look, we're different places. We have different hang-ups. We're wrestling with different things. So now he's going to apply it. Verse 9, he says this, be careful. Be careful. Think about it. Give care to, give consideration. However, that the exercise of your rights does not become a stumbling block to the weak. For if someone with a weak conscience sees you with all of your knowledge, there's a kind of tongue-in-cheek, with all of that knowledge that you possess, eating in an idol's temple, won't that person be emboldened to eat eat what is sacrificed to idols? So he's making the case. He says, look, he's not saying you shouldn't go eat in an idol's temple. He's using that as an example of what would be perfectly fine to do, which might blow our minds. He's using the example that it would be perfectly fine to go and buy meat in an idol's temple. The problem comes is when someone with a weaker conscience, you know, you're sitting there in the temple of Aphrodite and you're like, yes, I would like that ham hock, or, you know, whatever it is that you're going to do. I'll take that. Somebody who walks by who used to be like a follower of Aphrodite, or maybe one of the temple prostitutes from the temple of Aphrodite, sees you in there and goes, what are you doing? What are you doing? He says, because you exercise your rights to do it, you embolden someone who doesn't have the right understanding to do it. And then he goes on from why does that matter? Why did it matter that they would be emboldened to do that? Verse 11, so this weak brother or sister for whom Christ died is destroyed by your knowledge. See, you go in there because you know that an idol is nothing. You know that there's only one true God. You know that there's no law that prohibits you from doing that. And so you go in and you get your meat and you have no conscience about it. But for the person who's weaker, what happens to them, they typically don't grow out of that weakness. I've been a Christian for 30 years. I still can't put my Bible on the ground. It's like a mental block. So it's not that you always get over that weakness. Sometimes you can. But what happens is they do it anyway. And then that kills them because they did it. Have you ever done something that you knew or you felt you knew God didn't want you to do, but was probably okay for others? And then you did it and you just get absolutely wrecked, right? Did that ever happen to you? And so he's saying, if this happens, that person is not going to be emboldened and assimilate or take in your understanding. They're going to do it anyway, and it's going to crush them on the inside because they didn't have your understanding. You're not going to elevate them to your liberty. You're going to destroy them with it. That's what he's saying. He says, you destroy your brother. He goes on from there, and he says, when you sin against them, chuck that away. That's sin to that. That's sin. And this is where it's completely countercultural, right? Because we are raised with the idea, I do what I want. If you don't like what I'm doing, don't look. It's my life. I have liberty. I do what I want. And Paul's making a case to say that's not always, there is a truth to that, but that's not love. That's not what God has called us to. He says, when you sin against them in this way and wound their weak conscience, you sin against Christ. Now, this is in, obviously, a context where you know. This isn't like you didn't know. Like you thought, hey, I'm just going to get my friendship at the Temple of Aphrodite. This is going to be great. And then someone walks by and they're shocked. And then you're just like, what friendship? You know, this isn't like this is where you know and you continue to do it. That's what this is, okay? So he says, you sin against Christ. So in other words, we wrong God. Since Christ purchased our brethren, since he paid for the sin of the whole world, And our brethren are those who have received the free gift of salvation by faith in what Christ did. He says, because that when we take steps that are rights and our liberty. See, he doesn't say it's not your right. He doesn't say it's not your liberty. It's your right and your liberty. And he says, but when we insist on those things and it costs our brothers and sisters in Christ, then we wrong Christ. We go against what he is doing. We are not building his kingdom at that point. We're building our kingdom. We're insisting on our things.